So today I'm excited to be having a conversation with Exit Momentum founder and head coach Colin Talley and Exit Momentum's newest certified business coach, Craig Sweeney. A few bullet points from Craig's bio that I want to hit on quick. Craig grew up in a family steeped in entrepreneurship, inheriting that drive at an early age. During his time at LSU, he took a leap of faith selling books door to door for 4 summers, clocking in over 40 hours a week. This experience instilled a robust work ethic, propelling him to finish in the top 1% among thousands of college students nationwide. Joining the family recruiting business, he gained a deep appreciation for human capital. They eventually joined a $300 million Talent Tree franchise group and secured the Franchise of the Year award, showcasing a commitment to excellence. Fast forwarding a bit, Craig co-founded the Louisiana Marathon, attracting runners from 50 states and over 20 countries. And over time, that portfolio has expanded to 22 events in 6 states, involving buyouts and acquisitions that further strengthen their position in the overall market. Now remember, go back to where we started this. This whole story starts with selling books door to door. And I think that's probably going to be an interesting part of this conversation. So with that, I'm excited to introduce Craig Sweeney. And I'm going to start with you, Colin. Talk a little bit about how you met Craig and what resonated about Craig with you the most.
Well, interestingly enough, Craig and I met, I believe, on a football field at St. George Catholic School here in Baton Rouge in maybe, I don't know, 2nd or 3rd grade. So we were not in the same grade. Craig's a year older than me, but we knew each other from grade school, ran track together, knew each other in high school, and just kept in touch and stuff like that. Our families knew one another. So that's where we originally met. But as relates to the business side, I knew Craig when he was in the recruiting business, was aware of that, and the success that they had as an organization was well known here in Baton Rouge. And then, I've been an avid racer and endurance participant for a long time with all the Ironmans and triathlons that I've done. And so Craig and I circled in that world as well. And I participated in some of the amazing events that he and his team put on when that was happening. So we've literally been kind of rotating around each other for quite a while. And so, that's our background as far as how we originally connected.
So Craig, take a little bit of time here and talk about what attracted you to Exit Momentum.
Initially, I was watching Colin in his coaching career and was really intrigued with what he was doing. We met with him, early on. I didn't realize at the time, because our races were growing and we needed to really look at what we were doing from a marketing standpoint, and putting on races has a lot of different, nuts and bolts to make sure those things happen. And so met with Colin then, and then over the next couple of years, just saw where, some of the companies that he was working with, was really impressed, and asked Colin, I said, well, what do y'all typically look for in a coach? And, whenever I'm talking to companies, I just generally, I ask a lot of questions because I'm curious. And Colin said, it's kind of interesting you asked that. And he sent me over the bullets of a coach. And I went, wow, yeah, that kind of sounds like me. That hits. Maybe this is something I could get into. So, we kept talking, and I'm just excited to be a part of the team, because that's, not just the coaching that Colin does for his clients. He implements everything in the Exit Momentum system and how we run the business at Exit Momentum, and really as a coach to us coaches internally. And I'm just soaking it all up because it's been a great culture just in the short time frame that I've been on board.
Fantastic. Talking about your bio a little bit, you bring some unique experiences to the table all the way back to selling books. Talk a little bit about that. Talk a little bit about some of the things you've learned along the way.
Yeah. Sometimes I like to bring up the selling books, and sometimes I don't, because some people, look at you like, why would you want to go do something like that? And, I think that's another example of what we do, of getting our clients to be uncomfortable. And certainly that's probably one of the most uncomfortable things you can do. Go to another part of the country. I think first summer was Arizona, and I sold in Texas and North Carolina and Wisconsin over my 4 summers. And, you don't know how much you're going to make. You don't know who your roommate is. It's straight commission. You could make all this money. And I needed it at the time. I didn't know it, but I needed to go do something different. And I'm so glad we did, because it taught work ethic and just working hard. And both my roommate and I, we battled all summer, and both did really well. So continued to do it for 4 more summers, and I think that really fueled me into our family business, because my parents were like, okay, wow, you're doing pretty good at that sales thing. Why don't you come and sell for us?
So talk a little bit about the family business for a second. There's obviously some experience that you pick up there, and then that leads you down a couple of different paths after that. So unpack that a little bit.
Yeah, so my parents bought a local independent firm called Temp Timers, and it was very much a generalist firm. So we did labor, we did clerical, I think at times we'd get into some upper office positions, And when I got started, I, I kept wanting to get into doing more. And so, how can we get into accounting? How can we get into technology? And so, I really love the people business and learning why companies, what makes them tick, what's their culture, why would somebody want to come work here with the employees, what are they looking for career-wise, what are they really, what's that utopian career, look like, and making a match. And over time, we franchised. So the beautiful part about that was we could focus on our clients and our candidates and not worry about the back office and payroll and legal and all those kinds of things. So, I used to tell our clients that the whole time, like, look, you're good at making this widget, right? You're good at building this. Let us be the professionals. Let us handle that for you. And really, that's when we franchise. That's what it did. It's allowed us to focus on our core competencies, and let somebody handle the things that we weren't good at, or either that or you just don't want to have to deal with. So went through a few acquisitions, saw that from that side where the company was sold to a British company and then a Chinese company, and the franchise we got into all of a sudden wasn't really the company. And so we went through the whole branding process, which was intriguing because never really been down that journey at the time, but coming up with the brand, what's your story, what's your culture, what do you want your core values to be? And that was a really neat process. And we're very successful, grew the business 3 times, and Katrina hit, and we had to there was a lot going on at that time. All of a sudden it's like, if we could find hundreds of people, we were gonna, but the problem, there was no electricity. So we had to be creative and find ways to find people when there was no power, for FEMA and all those things going on. So it was quite an interesting journey over the years.
So what leads you to co-founding the Louisiana Marathon?
Well, like Colin said, we crossed each other, during the event business, and Cullen was doing Ironman, and I was out of shape, and so I really just started because looked in the mirror and I went, okay, I need to focus on myself, and started swimming because my knees were so bad. Colin mentioned playing football, and I was in the swimming pool, and somebody says, "You training for a triathlon?" And I'm like, "No, I'm just swimming because my knees hurt so bad." And then somebody said, "Oh man, you'd be great. You're a great runner. You're a swimmer." And so I started triathlon, and I remember the first half Ironman, and Cullen's passing me in the middle of the race, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I hadn't even really been training much." But it was great. I did a few half Ironman, and guy that I grew up in school, we started brainstorming and said, why doesn't Baton Rouge have a signature event like New Orleans has Rock and Roll Marathon and Quest City Classic? And we said, hey, let's stop whining about it. Let's do something. And we co-founded the Louisiana Marathon. And then all of a sudden we had this race that went from 2,800 runners to over 8,000 runners. And it wasn't just a hobby. Now it was a business. So.
Fantastic. So Colin, now's the perfect time for you to dive in. What about all of this experience got you excited about having Craig join the team?
So John, when Craig reached out, it was great. I know Craig, know him well, personally and professionally, seen what he's built, have tremendous respect for him and Mignon and the family they built and the 4 sons they're raising. There's whole stories there. They're incredible as well with some of the work they're doing, especially with their youngest son, Reed. And so that was the first piece. But the crazy part was Craig asked me, he says, hey, who do you get for a coach? Well, John, we've done great work on our ideal coach avatar. Just like we have our clients think about their ideal clients, we have ours, but we also said we need an ideal coach. And so I literally just I'm traveling, a screenshot and sent this to Craig, and literally within a few hours I get a bulleted list back. So we have bullets of what an ideal coach is, and he had bulleted under each one where he fit. And I was just like, it was just this awakening moment. I was just answering questions. I thought he was just curious. And then all of a sudden I think we both just kind of woke up to the fact that, wait a minute, if this is the ideal coach and he's got literally bulleted examples for each one, we probably need to have a deeper discussion, right? So that was the first piece that I saw. When I think about Craig's background, so we talked about and joked about him selling books door to door. Listen, that requires deep commitment and an ability to do things over and over and over again that are hard, right? And to be quite frank, in this work, you have to have an endurance mindset. You have to have an endurance background. We talk about that with our ideal coach because it is hard work, and you have to be able to sit in the pain and discomfort with a client and not try to save them, right? Sometimes some of the work we have to do has to allow that to kind of mature, to come through with the client. So you have to have that perspective. So I knew he was a hard worker. I knew he was committed. I knew he was a high performer, right? We saw that, right? Then you step into phase two, where he is literally running and guiding a staffing business. And as we all know, the people function in every business is foundational to the entire company. So he's an expert in that. He's done it for many, many companies. He's done it in incredibly difficult circumstances, as he shared a little while ago during Hurricane Katrina. A lot of people that aren't from Louisiana remember it, but they don't remember in the sense of what was happening here and how difficult that was. So to navigate that and literally participate in that, working with the federal government, the state government, all the businesses and all the needs that were happening at that point in time, just managing the chaos was over the top. So for him to have been able to navigate that, had success, it shows me they understand. He understands that people function in terms of recruiting, hiring, onboarding, making sure you protect that and do that really, really well, even in highly stressful situations. Now you fast forward to the events company that they founded, right? So there's an idea. And there's this moment in time where he's sitting there having a conversation with one of his friends and eventual business partners to say, well, we should have this. Well, who's going to do it? And so he's got this do it mentality, right? There's this approach to, I'm not going to just sit here and talk about it. We're actually we're going to activate this thought and create something. And I was a participant in the first race. It was incredible. I had raced all over the country. You would have thought in year one, this thing had been around 10, 20 years. The branding, the experience, the bands, the gear, like it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable to participate in. It just showed me the level of thinking he has around branding, around creating, around the product you deliver. And so there's just a standard that Craig has operated with for the whole time that we've known him. And so for him to decide that he wanted to come look at this business was incredible to us. And then I know who he is as a man, the way that he operates in his family, and that makes the fit for us as well from a core value standpoint.
One of the things I love about that you hit on was, why don't we have this here? Let's make it happen. Like you said, Craig, we could sit around and whine about it, or we could activate. And the fact that that's in your DNA is activation and go, I think is fantastic. Talk about that a little bit from the perspective of a coach. What do you think you're going to bring to Exit Momentum clients that's going to be valuable to them?
I use the analogy of carrot and the stick, and I think Cullen does it really, really well. Where, and what I mean by that is, sometimes you have to say the uncomfortable things, and that could be from athletes that I've coached to businesses that I've worked with, of saying, hey, look, you're good here, but here's some areas that need attention. And so I think it's just being upfront and honest, being in the people business, it's really, creating a system and asking the right questions, whatever process that might be. So, that was something that being in the staffing world for so many years, and even on the marathon side, because you have to find a core team to produce the event. And then, oh, by the way, you need to have, depending on the size of your event, hundreds and hundreds and up to thousands of volunteers. So coordinating all those things and all those different moving pieces, I think certainly, gives me some experience that I feel will bring some good and positive attributes to the companies that I coach and work with.
I'm going to go one step further with that. And I have a question for you. You know something about scale, because you didn't stop at Louisiana Marathon. You kept going, and you guys have added other events to this. Talk a little bit about scaling and what you bring to the table from that perspective.
Yeah. So, there was some scaling with Louisiana Marathon. Certainly as we grew each year, we knew that geographically, we needed to expand our portfolio in the Southeast. So we expanded to Mississippi, to Alabama, because we noticed that a lot of our runners were driving in. I mean, we're getting runners from Delaware and all over the country, but if we really were going to grow, then that drive-in audience. And so people love our events, and when they run our events, they tell other people. And so, just this past year, and it's, for the past several years, we've been ranked as the best, the most fun event, in Louisiana. Same thing in Mississippi, same thing in Alabama. So if they tell their friends, then that just gives us more and more growth. So it's a little bit of both of, internal scaling and growth, but also, what do you need to do outside of your own little circle so that you can grow things for the better of the whole region.
So Cullen, I'm going to ask you a similar question. Craig comes and he joins the team. How does he make Exit Momentum stronger?
Well, he's got real experience, right? So, and I think in a couple of different levels. We talked about his work. We talked about who he is as a man and a husband and a father, which obviously matters a ton to us, right? We talk about who he is as a businessman, having worked really, really hard, understands people, and has executed events. And I want to stop on that for a second, because so many of the business owners that are going to watch this things can slide in their business. You tech firms out there, if you don't hit your date, that's kind of the software, we're going to move the GA date a couple of days, or we didn't get that sale closed. Let me help you understand, when Craig and his team were executing an event, if the event's on January 8th, guess what? They don't get to slide to January 9th or 10th, regardless of the weather, regardless of the government, regardless of construction on the roads. It doesn't matter. The event has to happen. There's no ability to fudge that. And so when you have somebody who's been able to run a business and executes at that level, you're talking about somebody who can do something that most businesses never have to do, because there's never the date pressure is not that hard in most businesses. So I do think that's a critical component that he brings that so many coaches don't have. Everything kind of slides and you kind of peanut butter things. And well, we got it done in January. Well, guess what? In Craig's world, January 8th was January 8th. There was no January 9th. That was cleanup day, right? Everything that had happened with thousands of people involved. So I think that's a critical point. The other thing, he has used this business operating system inside the business. He's taken these systems and used them himself in his businesses. Once again, the people that join this team and work with us have to be able to use the system themselves first before we're going to let them go out and teach something they don't know anything about. We are not going to operate from theory, and Craig has been doing it for years, and the results are proven in terms of the events they scaled, the revenue they drove, the profit they drove, and the brand they created, and that's because of the fundamentals of the things we teach. So this is not some like, hey, what's Craig going to do next? He's been doing it. He's just now going to bring those skills that had proven results and bring them to your business.
Awesome. So Craig, Cullen has talked a couple of times about the man you are, family, things like that. What makes you tick outside of work? Like, what's important to you? What do you value?
A little bit over the years, I've been a non-faculty cross-country track coach, and I had the opportunity to do that again this past cross-country season. And I think that lends to a little bit of what Cullen and I talked about in me coming to Exit Momentum is I really love to coach. I really love to help individuals, get where they want to go. What are those goals, and how can I push you? How can I encourage you to be able to hit those targets? And so, as a father of four, I think Cullen mentioned my son Reed. He's 8 years old and he has Down syndrome. And this past year, my brother rode 6,400 miles around the country to raise funds for the special needs community. And at first, I was like, Chris, why are you doing that? Reed's fine. I mean, he's healthy. He's a lover and a hugger, and that's pretty traditional in Down syndrome. But, we want to open a special needs coffee shop. And so that's a big driver that, the more we can do to make that happen. And it's not just for the special needs individuals. It's really for the community, because, my older boys, we've all learned from Reed that unconditional love, and really the community learns from the special needs community of how to be patient and love. And I think the Biddy Bow franchise, and that I think now has like 30 locations around the country by a mom with special needs, she says that it's a human movement. And I think that's something that's not just needed for our community, but around. So that's a big passion of mine, is making sure that happens, because we don't have that here in our community, and we're going to make it happen.
Awesome. So Cullen, this is your chance. Anything you want to add as we wrap up here?
Listen, I think that you can see and hear this guy, and we're going to have to break a little bit of this humility from him, because he's a pretty humble guy considering all he's created, the results he has. But I think you can see his heart, his care, and really I want you to think about what he's been able to do in terms of, the career accomplishments, but literally creating something from nothing. So for our founders who want somebody who understands what it means to start with an idea that does not exist and have it turn into reality, Craig's done it, period. I mean, we can show you it's there, and we're getting ready to do it again. And Exit Momentum is going to be a part of supporting, Reed Rocks and what happens there as well. And you can hear it in him again. Like, this is not stopping. So you're bringing somebody onto your team alongside you who understands what it means to have an idea, to be a founder, to dream of what's possible, and then do what it takes to take this concept and not just talk about it for months and years and months and years. And we should do this and we could do this, and actually turn it into something that creates results in the world. And so you've got a real creator, a real founder, a real entrepreneur who's got deep roots in terms of what he does and with his family and his life, who's been able to create those results. So we couldn't be any happier to have him on the team. Excited for you all to meet him and have a chance to see if you're a fit for us and he's a fit for you, and take it forward and create with a true partner next to you as you move forward.
Craig, I just want to say I appreciate you taking the time to do this today. These conversations are always amazing. It's fun to hear your resume and your bio, but also your backstory and what makes you tick outside of work. So I appreciate you sharing that. And Thank you, Colin, for taking the time today to do this as well. I'm excited to see where this goes. So I appreciate both of you. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, John, thank you so much.